Welcome to another episode of Better Business, Better Life. I'm your host, Debra Chantry-Taylor. I'm passionate about helping entrepreneurs and their leadership teams get what they want out of business and life. On the show, I invite successful business owners and expert speakers to share their successes. They are open and honest about the highs and lows of business and also life as a business owner. We want to share those learnings with you to inspire you, but also to help you avoid some of the common mistakes. My hope is that you take something from each of these short episodes that you can put into action to help you get what you want, not only out of your business, but also your life. Welcome to another episode of Better Business, Better Life. Today I'm here with Knowles, who is the Vice President and Partner of Influence Ecology, which is a global business education company. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct, Debra.
Welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
It's lovely to have you. We've also got RJ somewhere down by our feet as well, don't we? RJ, who's visiting with Hermes and Apollo. So we've got the whole gang in here today. Yeah. Hey, thanks for coming on the podcast. I'm really interested to find a little bit more about yourself first, personally, before we get started. So tell us a little bit about the things you're most proud of professionally and personally in your life.
So from a professional standpoint, a couple of things. I spent almost a decade of my life working sort of, very long hours and very committed to delivering a lot of, courses and programs and personal coaching sort of training sessions with thousands of people. And it took a lot. It was a lot of training. I sort of made a difference in huge, amount of people's lives. I wouldn't recommend, in hindsight now, working that long and that hard. And it's partly what led me to the sort of, where I am now. But, just really proud of the sort of amount of time I've spent professionally just making a real contribution, a real difference to many people's lives. Yeah. Fantastic. And then the second thing is back in sort of the middle of 2013, when I had a consultancy business that specialized around mental performance and stress with executives and CEOs. I took a bit of a plunge, bit of a risk, and sort of shut up my office in Parnell, went online with all my coaching and consulting, and went to the US for 3 months. Oh. And the point of going there was to study with one of the co-founders of Influence Ecology, my company I'm now a partner in, to really see if the kind of philosophy and the methodology and what was happening there, because I was a client myself at the time, was something that I wanted to have, be more of the kind of work that I was doing.
Okay.
And so I went over for 3 months and studied and worked with one of the co-founders, and kind of the rest is history. And over a couple of years, I ended up getting offered a partnership and a role to help grow the company globally and deliver the programs and now just focus here on sort of New Zealand and Australia.
Okay, awesome. So how big is the company globally and how many people have you helped?
Oh, goodness me. I mean, it started in 2009. I'd say in the thousands probably. I mean, it's very structured, study programs that we do. They're not for everybody. But yeah, quite a number of, business professionals. And then we are in about 13 different countries, and we've got most of our sort of staff are in the US, but we've got faculty members in Australia, here in New Zealand, and the US. And then, we have sort of a lot of webinars and podcasts and all those sorts of things that, have a bit more of a far reach around the world. So, yeah.
Sure. So tell me a bit about what it actually is. I mean, influence ecology, it sounds quite mysterious. What is it all about?
Easy way to think of it is like a small university that teaches people to be more influential. Right. And why I say that is because all day, every day, as human beings, we're trying to get stuff done. We're trying to meet our needs. We're trying to meet our wants in life. We're trying to get along with other people. And we rely on a lot of help from, all the people around us to achieve that. And all day we're in these exchanges. You could say transactions is the word we use. Not transaction like a bank transaction, but a reciprocal and consequential exchange, with another person to try and influence them to say yes to your invitation, your offer, your request, the judgments and assertions you need to make, the commitments you need to get them to, make. We're always trying to get people's compliance all day long. That's what it is to be human.
Yep.
And so transactions or transactional competence, what we teach, is all about improving your effectiveness, the quality and the effectiveness of all those exchanges that you're in all day long. So becoming more influential isn't like being some sort of Instagram star, or we're not talking about that kind of influence,
No, yeah.
but just in general life, the better we are at influencing people in a very ethical way that's considering mutual aims and mutually beneficial sort of transactions, the better we get to live our lives.
I'm pleased that you said that, because I was a bit concerned, that manipulation, the term manipulation came to mind if you're sort of saying about always being influential in transactions, but you're saying about in an ethical way that actually benefits both parties.
Yeah, and the word influence, I think, some people are like, yeah, I love influence, and some people are like, ooh, it sounds manipulative and all of that. And there are people out there that do it very unethically or manipulative. I think as kids we learned to do that well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we really sort of hold strong to, look, don't do it if it's not good for the other person, if it's, not considering how it might benefit them or that it does benefit them.
Yep.
And if you're going to use certain tactics of influence, things like, say, scarcity, which is a common one, don't, say something isn't going to be available or isn't going to be as available to have that sort of influence so that someone's like, oh, no, I want it now. And then 5 minutes later say, oh, no, it's still available. As in, that sort of example where maybe you ring up in the TV ad.
Yeah, there's only 5 available.
Yeah, and then, of course, it's available. So that sort of practice is not, it's the opposite of what we want to teach people.
So where do you start? I mean, I visited your course a couple of days ago, and I was very impressed with the way that you approach it. But give me a 101 without a visual. What do you do to start thinking about how influential you can be?
I think one of the first things that we really have people confront and look at is that you're always transacting. In other words, you're always in a reciprocal and consequential. And I mean consequential like not bad, as in just there is a consequence to the exchange. And so we have people start to look at, what is it like to be in a transaction or an exchange with you? Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's good. Yeah. Sometimes it's not so great. I know for me personally that there are some ways that I, act and behave, or I go about things that that's the way I think to do it, or that's my natural way to do it. And that, doesn't always work for other people, or maybe agitates other people. So I think where we start, especially in our study, is starting to like pull the rug out a little bit of people's naivety or their lack of being able to see the cost or the consequence, good, the bad, the ugly of being in an exchange with them, being in a transaction. And then we start to then have people look at their, their ecosystems, or ecology is the word we use, because our environment is always influencing us. Sometimes the people and the things in our environment are influencing us towards what we want, towards, the aims we have. But often there's what we sort of call conspiracy ecologies that are pulling us away. That classic example of if you're not drinking, for example, and you go to the pub and some of your good friends even, they're not out to get you, but they might be like, oh, don't worry, Debra.
Just have one glass.
Have one. And it's sort of like, no.
Yep.
And so it's that, starting to get really aware and conscious of that you are always transacting and you're always influencing and being influenced. And so it's just raising that awareness as then we start to teach some real frameworks and models and principles that kind of give you the codified way, or the sort of decoder ring, so to speak, of how to navigate those exchanges and those transactions a whole lot better.
Okay. And so what's the benefit of becoming more influential, or understanding that influential cycle and how you work with it?
Most of the business professionals, we work with are often challenged by or struggling with, and I don't like this term, but it's an easy way to get it, work-life balance.
Yep.
We would more say satisfaction across a broad range of areas of life.
Yep.
And they may be succeeding with their money, or their career might be really great, and they enjoy the actual, say, business work they do, but they're stretched with time with the family, or they're neglecting their health, or they're not considering things like their sort of ongoing education, or other areas of life being sacrificed. And so when people learn all the frameworks and models and they embody them, which is why we have study programs, not like just weekend courses that are like rah-rah motivational, because it takes a while to unravel all the habits and behaviors and sort of ethics people have that aren't serving them and start to build new ones. But as they practice very deliberately everything they're learning, and they're measuring stuff, in our programs. So it's very tangible. The ultimate outcome over time is what we sort of say is more that whole life satisfaction.
Yeah.
And satisfaction, as you would have learned at that, one day training we did, isn't about this mystical, magical, miraculous life where everything's peaches and roses and you just wake up in the morning and you bounce out of bed. I'm all for that, but I certainly don't wake up that way. And I'm a very enthusiastic person, as you are. Yeah. Some mornings I just would rather not even get out of bed. This is more about looking at such a number of areas of life. We have 15 of them in our model, and starting to go, look, I can't have the kind of dreams and magic and miracles in every area. It can't be utopic. Mm-hmm. You've got to really look at what would satisfy me, what will do, what would be good enough that it's like a wholesome, great life.
Yep.
And so another part of the process, as you were speaking before, is a lot of really accurate thinking. Mm-hmm. So looking at these different areas and sort of going, well, what's the kind of health that would satisfy me?
Yep.
And the marketplace is telling us all day
what we should
do and all of that. And sometimes it's right, sometimes it's not. But we try and ground people in really examining, really exploring like what would be satisfactory for you. So for health, for example, like health has always been a cornerstone for me. It's where I started, and wake up in the morning and doing some movement, physical activity. It's just like brushing my teeth.
Yep.
So my health aims are kind of like, what kind of things can I do for optimum performance? So, I'm always got some crazy thing going on, like a boxing event that I did years ago, an amateur boxing fight in front of 1,000 people at the Langham. And I used to do CrossFit, I run marathons. So I have measured like 4,000 nights of sleep, and, I'm full on about my health, but that's for optimum performance. Some people, what would satisfy them in health is, I don't know,
be able to play with their grandkids.
Play with their grandkids.
Not be in pain when they get out of bed in the morning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Doing some exercise, or, 4 times a week, and eating a generally healthy diet. Like, that's good for them.
Yeah.
So it's very different. And same with money, same with career, same with all these other areas.
So I liken it to a business plan as well, right? Because at the end of the day, same thing happens in business. We have this kind of idea of what business should be like and what success looks like. But success is different for every individual. And it's about building up a very clear picture of what's important for you in your business. And this is what you're saying is around the whole business and life together. What's the plan that we have going forward? What does it look like? How do I actually get there? And then you help them to take that information and put a plan in action too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
And coming from such a background of the sort of personal growth, personal development, all that sort of really, wonderful, inspiring, motivational, type of methodology, which, I'm a, self-identified addict of that for many years.
Yep.
But that just getting excited, just getting inspired, and, all the studies I've done around the brain, just flooding your brain with dopamine and serotonin and oxytocin will definitely have you willing and able to take on stuff that you might not have been able to, have that breakthrough.
Yeah.
But I've written quite a bit on what I call the excitement trap, where, our well-intended enthusiasm and excitement and inspiration could be a real danger to us, because if we don't check that and let the wonderful, happy hormones subside before we make some commitment to this new thing, or I'm going to go take on the world. And, that's where a lot of people, I think, including myself over time, we get deflated, or we get so inspired by what we think success should be and what it would look like, especially in, a group of people, that then we run out into the world and nothing has changed over that 3-day weekend or that sales meeting or whatever it is, where we got inspired. And so it's not about squashing people's dreams or saying things can't be done, but I just think it's important these days to be pragmatic and to just watch when you get hooked or hijacked by all that wonderful, happy, excitement, enthusiasm. Because when people get angry, stressed, agitated, I think we're well taught to just pause, don't let the crop, the lizard brain press send on that email, just wait. Like, we're well trained, but we're not really well trained in going, okay, hang on, I'm so excited, inspired right now. Like, I could do anything. Like, well, all right, just chill, and let it, enjoy it. And so, I think it's so important to, for people to, like you said, really look at what does success look like for you, and figure out or get people to help you figure out what's the very objective pathway. And have you got all the resources that you need? Because all too often we rush into action.
Yep.
And we haven't thought it all through. And then it's really, and I went through this, like you get deflated, you get sort of disappointed, and at times you feel really down because you're like, why isn't it working out for me?
Because you set yourself up to fail.
I'm such an awesome person.
Yeah. So I liken it again to the business stuff, is at the end of the day, even if you have the most wonderful plan, the most wonderful vision, you've still got to put in the work, right? You've still got to make sure there is no magic silver bullet that suddenly makes everything fine. So getting clear around what you want, first of all, having the plan to get there, but then taking constant action is the only way you can really achieve success, is what I would say.
Yeah, and it sounds so simple. I think one of the important factors that all of our clients at Influence Ecology say is we do our best to produce what we call a consequential environment. It doesn't mean we're going to be, waving our fingers at you or telling you you're bad, not like that, or, confronting you. It's more about we make sure you're surrounded by sort of structures and things that you're accountable for, that you've committed to, and that if you don't do the work, if you don't take the action that you've contracted to do, like that's our deal, it's our agreement. You got to do all this. We're going to deliver it, and we will remove you from our program, or we will sort of give you some warning shots if you're not complying, if you're not getting the help you need, or you're not receiving it. When we offer it, and when people know that there's that kind of both the threat, so to speak, of you might sort of not make it, or you might be removed. But also there's that social dynamic of all these other people that are doing it. It really does have that environment mean you don't have to rely on yourself all the time to be so self-determined and self-motivated. You can actually produce environments around you that almost make it a foregone conclusion that you're going to take that work. So do that work and take those actions. And so that deliberate practice does get boring.
They talked about that in Atomic Habits, though, as well, as actually creating an environment so that it makes it easy for you. I've had to do it at home. I love a glass of wine, as you well know, and I have this great big wine fridge in the corner of my lounge, which is the first thing I see when I walk into the lounge. And so what I've actually had to do is actually take out an entire shelf of wine and put in fizzy waters, so that when I walk in, I actually have the option to pick fizzy water over a glass of wine. And it's amazing what a difference that's made.
Yeah, it's a very simple example of, I think, how much our environment does influence us, and creating the right environment and the right things to shape your behavior. And again, coming back to that thing about you saying about success and all the sort of push, you could say, for this, like go for the stars and all that stuff you hear that we're all indoctrinated into. I think
work from a beach anywhere around the world and only work 4 hours a week.
That's right. But it doesn't have people sort of think about, well, you could save yourself a lot of time, energy and effort and willpower if you actually stop trying to be...
Sorry, we've got a couple of more growls. Hello, dogs. I know you want to be on the podcast.
We're almost done. But like, there's such a sort of if it's to be, it's up to me. Like, I have to be that person that motivates myself. And it's way smarter in my view to actually go, no, let me get a whole bunch of people and the structures that help me actually get there. And it takes a lot of the willpower out of it. And so I just think, there's so much value in the sort of environment, not just working on ourselves to be more self-evolved so I can be more sort of a better person. That's great. But it's also important to figure out what is the environment that you need around you. And there was one other thing I was going to say. It'll come to me.
That's okay. I was going to ask you, in terms of 3 little tips we could perhaps give to the listeners that they could actually think about that would get them started on this journey, if you like, what would they be?
Good question.
Anything they could read? Yes, I'm just prompting you. There's something you've come across that's been really great in terms of helping you understand.
Well, one tip is if you want to really change a habit, you could say, or a certain behavior over time, that it's not one that, say, that you've dealt with before, you've sort of tried and hasn't worked. One of the biggest things is put some consequence into the commitment or the contract that you make. Like, let's say if you and I are like, we're going to do this new diet, but we know we're a little unreliable, or, if we're together, we'll get into cahoots. We might sort of go, okay, cool. Before we commit to this, if you don't, do the actions or whatever over, if you miss 2 days or, something, then you don't get to buy any shoes for 6 months. All right, I picked that well. And I don't get to, go paddleboarding for 6 months. And now,
there's a commitment.
There is no way I'm not going to do that work and take that action, because there's no way I'm going to have that consequence get enacted. So that's one tip, where a lot of people, they're not willing to. So it's not a strong commitment. So that's one. The other one is be really mindful and careful of what you accept, what you say yes to. A lot of people, I think, they feel like if they say yes, if they, get opportunities, and they're like, I should say yes, I should take this on. And maybe they'll become overcommitted, or they may not be fit for it, but they're like, oh, I should, so they do, and they may not do the best job. Our identity or our sort of value in the marketplace gets built as much by what we're willing to decline as it does by what we're willing to accept. So practicing declining things regularly and with, a real sort of finesse and grace, and even stating, I have to say, no, I'm declining because of X, Y, Z, so that then someone's like, they're not going to do this because they've got a commitment to this, their, wife or husband or this. And so it starts to build your identity through the things that you're declining. And then third tip, recognize that, as business owners, I think there's a lot of people listening who are business owners, that you don't have to do it all or learn it all. At times you need to wear all the hats, but figure out, based on your personality type, your dominant behavioral style, sort of the value that you bring, figure out what are the things you are most useful for, the best use of you. And double down on that. If your behavior like mine is really personal, relational and about people, figure out how to do more of that, and then get other people around you who have the other roles or play the other sort of roles way better than you.
We call it delegate and elevate.
That's right.
And it's all about doing the stuff that you really love and are really good at, and delegating the rest to other people. Okay, puppies, we're almost coming to the end now here. Okay, so Drew, how do people find out more? If they want to find out more about the program, if they want to perhaps get a bit of a taster for it, if they'd like to have a chat to you, how would they do that?
Just go on to our website. It's probably the easiest. Influenceecology.com. And in saying that, in about a month, it's about to completely change.
Stop there. No, let's go back, because we're not. No, this won't go out for a month, so don't worry. It'll be your rest of your life. That's what I get. So
I'll say it then.
Say it. Shh, guys, I'm going to let them out. Go out there and annoy those people. Thank you.
What's so funny then is we probably should have said from Influential You.
Oh, really?
Yeah, okay. July 7th.
But if you go to Influence Ecology, it will redirect that way. Okay.
Yeah.
So Jordan, we're starting again now from there. So tell me, Drew, so if people have been interested in what they've heard and they'd like to find out more, what's the best way they can do that? Do we have a taster? Do we have somewhere they can find out information? How do they contact you?
Absolutely. So just go to our website, influentialyou.com, and that's our sort of new brand that's just been launched for our company. And there's a load of resources. There's all of the different sort of trainings and things that you can find there.
Is there a quiz?
There's probably going to be all sorts of things like that.
Excellent.
Or just go to my LinkedIn page.
So that's Drew Knowles.
Influence Ecology,
Fantastic. Well, look, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Really a pleasure to have you on here. We'll look forward to hearing more from you.
Thank you so much for having me here. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Drew. Thanks again for joining us on Better Business, Better Life with me, your host, Debra Chantry-Taylor. If you enjoyed what you heard, then please subscribe to this podcast and let us help you to get what you want out of business and life. Each week we release a new short episode which will give a success story and 3 takeouts to put into action immediately. These will help you take your business from good to great. The podcast is also supported by free resources, templates and useful tools which you can find at debrachantrytaylor.com. I am a trained entrepreneurial leadership and business coach, a professional EOS implementer, and an established business owner myself. I work with established businesses to help them get what they want. Feel free to contact me if you'd like to have a chat about how I might be able to help you, or if you'd like to join me as a guest on this podcast. Thanks again to NZ Audio Editors for producing this podcast. See you on the next episode.